The majority are looking for what's called SALSA, which is a UK-based accreditation system, which basically looks at if you've got a factory unit or a kitchen unit, and it's basic levels of hygiene, paperwork, traceability, the whole caboodle. And then the sort of the bigger, chunkier one is BRC, which is similar to ISO. And for someone like Ocado, for example, you have to have either SALSA or BRC, but it has to be a grade A. So the first thing, which is not very sexy, is do you have the accreditation? The second one, I think, is thinking about the type of product, the target customer, and the life stage. Those would be the other three things that I'd be thinking of. So if we start with the life stage where the brand is.
Hi Karen, good morning. How are you?
Hi, I'm really well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm really looking forward to it.
How is everyone at home?
Very well, thank you. Very lucky. Everyone's very healthy.
That's great. Awesome. So really appreciate your time this morning, Karen. Thanks for joining in.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Hi viewers, good morning. Welcome to the new episode of Sustainable Future Food Talk Show. Today we have with us Karen Green from the UK. She's a successful entrepreneur, business mentor and consultant with over 30 years experience in UK grocery. She has worked with a number of challenger brands, enabling them to gain listings in Tesco, Sainsburys, Ocado, and many other retailers, and is an expert on how to drive profitable sales growth through strong category management. Karen is the author of the best-selling book, Recipe for Success, The Ingredients of a Profitable Food Business, and a regular keynote speaker within the UK food and drink space. She is passionate about great food and a regular judge at Great Taste, Quality Food Awards, and GBEA Food Heroes. Really appreciate Karen. Thanks for joining me on this podcast. If you can give a brief idea about how is foodmentor.co helping food brands to launch in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working with challenger brands now for, coming up for 6 years. And I do a number of things with people. Start often when they're just starting out to talk about how they might want to launch their brand, thinking about their route to market. And then as they grow and probably get to generally between 2 and 3 years old, they're ready to graduate and join kind of the bigger grocery multiples. The biggest grocery multiple in the UK is Tesco, and they've got about 27% of the market share. And then there's the smaller ones. So Ocado, which is all online, is one that a lot of my clients start with. It's kind of a starter retailer. Their market share is about 1.8%, but they love startup brands, and they're always looking for exclusivity. So what I do, I have a number of ways of helping. So I do some hands-on strategy and consultancy for people to actually start to build their mission. I help them to maybe write their pitches. And I also have a program called Retailer Ready program, and we can put a link in the show notes. The next one starts in August, where clients come on and I teach them step by step how to put their pitch together, how to get the attention of the retailer, and then how to actually close that deal and make it work as well. Because I think sometimes we get very focused on getting a listing and then we don't actually look after it, and then it gets delisted, and then what was the point? So yeah, that was a little bit of a long answer, but that's kind of what I do. Coaching, mentoring, consulting, and then for a couple of clients, I never have more than 3, but I do get retained as well to actually act as their commercial director. What I don't do, and I do get asked, is I'm not a distributor, I'm not an agent, and I don't work on commission. Those are the things I don't do, because it's important for people to understand. I'm not gonna. I will help, and I will come in for a period of time and act as a commercial director, but I will not. I'm not one of those other things. If that helps for the clarity.
Yeah, interesting. So, Karen, being a CPG retail expert, what advice do you have for those young brands to decide as to, which stores should they really launch the products in the UK? Maybe, mainstream or standalone. What is your advice on
that? It's there's quite a lot of different criteria they need to think about. So, one of the sort of what I call the hygiene factor is actually accreditation. So in the UK, there's 3 levels of accreditation. And what I mean by that is what recognition the factory has for safety. So in a lot of overseas countries, it's ISO 2200 or 2000 something. I never know what it is, but ISO, you'll know what it is if you've got it. In the UK, we have 3. So we have a basic sort of the environmental health officer goes around if someone's producing off a kitchen, and they can get that approval. And someone like Selfridges, which is, very prestigious, great place to start, they will accept that. So if you've got brands, we're talking globally here, I know your audience is global, they could go into Selfridges without too much problem from an accreditation point of view. The majority are looking for what's called SALSA, which is a UK-based accreditation system, which basically looks at if you've got a factory unit or a kitchen unit, and it's basic levels of hygiene, paperwork, traceability, the whole caboodle. And then the sort of the bigger, chunkier one is BRC, which is similar to ISO. And for someone like Ocado, for example, you have to have either SALSA or BRC, but it has to be a grade A. So the first thing, which is not very sexy, is do you have the accreditation? The second one, I think, is thinking about the type of product, the target customer. So and the life stage. Those would be the other 3 things that I'd be thinking of. So if we start with the life stage where the brand is, if it's still at its fledgling stage, maybe it's got direct consumer, maybe some local sales. One of the smaller grocery multiples like Whole Foods and Planet Organic, because the UK Whole Foods buys separate from the US. Yeah. They've got like 7, I think Whole Foods have got 7 stores, Planet Organic have got a few more. They are what I call good starter multiples to work with. They're looking for innovation. They're looking for the type of products that challenger brands bring. So they're at the forefront of trends. They're usually free from sustainable eco products. Those are the things that they're looking for. So that's the kind of what I call your starter. And then, as I've already mentioned, Ocado is a great one to move on to, because they're looking for, again, that type of brand, but they offer that national distribution. So Planet Organic and Whole Foods are London centric. And then when it comes to the bigger retailers, which is obviously, that's where the big bucks lie, and it's more interesting. I think then you've got to be looking for target customer. And I've got a presentation, very happy to share with you. We can put it in the show notes. I did a presentation not so long ago, which will give all the details of each retailer, like Tesco, Sainsburys, Waitrose, and what their customers are like. So it means you can have a look at it and think, right, okay, who are my customers and how does it fit? So some people, as I say, are probably looking for much bigger brands. And then the other thing really is funding. So how much funding have you got? Because somebody like Ocado, you're not going to get many sales in Ocado without getting the product into the basket. To get the product into the basket, you've probably got to invest about £5,000. So roughly 10% of turnover. So there's a funding element as well. So those.
Is the listing fees by any chance?
There are some listing fees, yes. But not all of them charge listing fees. So you don't need to worry so much about listing fees. But what you do need to worry about is how you're going to support the brand, you know, how you're going to pay for the marketing, how you're going to pay for promotions, have you got enough margin? That's the other area of obviously of challenge. Some of our retailers are looking for higher margins than others because their costs are higher. So this is the kind of thing that I teach on my Retailer Ready program. So we go through all of this detail so that the brand can make the right choice. And certainly if people are coming in from other countries, there are wholesalers and distributors that you can work with who will help facilitate that process. So it's not as hard as it sounds. Yeah. And it's I mean, the UK marketplace is just a fantastic opportunity. It's such there's so much innovation and there's so many opportunities, I think, for challenger brands, unlike maybe the rest of mainland Europe, for example. So it's worth looking at, definitely.
Thank you so much for this. Coming down to my next question, Karen. What points should the new CPG brands consider while competing with those large-sized global brands on the international platform?
So the clues in the title. So a CPG brand is effectively a challenger brand, and so to challenge, you know, it's the David and Goliath story. So to challenge the global brand, I think you have to find a niche, and I say to my clients, there's nothing new. I mean, there is some new stuff, but it's quite out there. And actually, honestly, you don't want to be that new, because to develop a new category, frankly, it's going to cost too much. So you want to go into a category that's in growth. Well, it could either be in growth. So your like plant-based is huge in the UK at the moment. So you can kind of get on the back of that, or maybe a static marketplace. So peanut butter is a good example, which was static, a couple of leading brands, and then Pip and Nut, Manilife came in and really challenged the way peanut butter is sold, the way it's developed, the recipes, the packaging. So it's thinking about the niches that the big guys aren't interested in. So that's the first thing. There is a great book, actually, by Adam Morgan, and I'm just trying to think, it's called Eating the Big Fish. It's really worth having a look at for challenger brands. He's a British writer, but it is quite interesting to give some more clues. And I think what he goes through, and he's written a second book as well about the types of challengers. So it's looking to say, well, where am I going to add value? So, for example, you might be what he calls the local hero. So the local hero is a local brand that is focusing in on local. And that's how you market it. And you market it, you're challenging the globe. There's a Scottish brand called Iron Brew, which is a soft drink which challenges Coca-Cola in Scotland. Okay. Because it's so huge and it's so part of the culture. Oh gosh, I don't know, 80 years old. It's a well-established brand. So that's one way you could do it. Or you might be looking at a niche that's just not big enough for them. Or you might be, you know, for example, I know they've just taken it out actually, but Sunpat peanut butter used to have palm oil in because it makes it easier to pack and it's easier to produce. Pip and Nut came in and went, we don't do palm oil. No, it's not. So there's an opportunity that's too hard for the big boys to do immediately, and you can take that space. But I think, so finding the right niche is key, but then it's how you do the marketing. How do you stand out? how do you do something that's completely different? And there's another brand well worth having a look called Little Moons. And they are little ice cream mochis. And they have had phenomenal success in the last couple of years, where they just went viral on TikTok. And Walls Unilever, which is obviously the big ice cream guys in the world, really knocked them for 6 in this area. So and they have created the concept of ice cream snackification, which is not easy to say, but and that's all about the marketing. So I think find the right niche and then market it in a different way, because the advantage you have as a challenger brand is you can be agile. It's and I'm working with a big corporation at the moment. I do some work for the UN. I have to put a proposal together, then we put terms of reference, then we sign a contract, When I work with a CPG brand, I go, right, do you want to work with me? And they go, yeah. And we go, right, okay, this is the sort of thing we're going to do. And off we go. And that's the difference. The CPG brands, the challenger brands have the agility. They don't have the funds, they've not got the budget, but they've got the agility, and that's the advantage.
Absolutely. Coming down to my next question, this is a mix of a personal question and a professional question. So, if I were to ask you your 2 goals, maybe, one personal and one professional, what would that be?
Professional goal. I mean, right now we are very focused. There's a big festival called Bread and Jam coming up next month. And I'm really focused on getting all my clients ready. And basically how it works is I sponsor their retail pitching, and you can pitch to all of the retailers. It's still available. Again, we'll put some links in the show notes if there's anything anyone's interested in doing. And you apply to pitch. If you get a pitch, then you pitch at the event. Last year, I think I got 15 pitches from my clients. So I'm on a mission to double that if possible, to get 30 pitches. So which means we would own all the pitches pretty much. So
yeah.
our target, we're going to own the pitches this year. So that's my professional short-term goal, to help my clients get there.
How about a personal goal?
Personally, so I'm a little old to go back to university, but I've applied for a master's in gastronomy at Palenza University in Italy. So I will hear on the 8th of July. And if I'm in, then I'm going to, I'm not sure quite how it's going to work. I initially was going to have a sabbatical, but I think I'll probably carry on a little bit. It's too hard just to walk away from everything. But that's my personal goal, to do my master's.
Interesting. Wish you all the best for this.
Thank you.
Manage both work and education.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And coming down to my last question for this session. So, of course, you have briefly mentioned about how does food mentor, help CPG brands. So, if you can emphasize on maybe, 2 very, non-negotiable points which, a brand that you help with should really go for, while launching into the UK. How can food mentor help CPG brands, and what would those 2 points be?
I think the key thing is understanding understanding which would be the right retailers and why the brand is right for them. And that's a piece of work we spend a lot of time on, because again, not just overseas, but especially overseas companies. And I live in the south of France, and you see this a lot from French companies. This is what I've got to sell.
Yeah.
And actually what you have to do is to take a step back and really think about the selling story, and really dig into that. And that's something I do a lot of work with, in terms of how do we make sure that we know who we want to sell to and what that selling story is. And then the other thing for me, which is non-negotiable, and we just don't talk about enough, and I'm going to talk about it, this dirty word of making money. You know, we talk about purpose, we talk about our why, but actually we're here to make money. You're there to make money. I'm here to make money. Yeah, I want to do it ecologically. I want to help my clients. I love doing what I do. I wouldn't just, you know, if I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. But we need to make money. And so many brands I talk to bring me product and say, right, well, we're going to sell it for this. And this is what I'm making it for. And I'm like, have you included your labor in there? You know, if they're making it on a kitchen table. Oh, well, I don't need to charge for me. And I'm like, well, yes, you do. You're not a charity. And that's why I started. That's why I wrote the book, Recipe for Success. I want to help CPG brands be successful, and to be successful, you have to make money so that you can reinvest into your purpose. And so making sure that they've got the right costings, making sure that they're proposing the right financials, making sure they're doing the right P&L. You see, I'm getting cross now. I'm getting that's so important. I just think it's so important. And, you know, in these times of inflation and the problems that we've got with shortages of glass, of packaging because of Amazon, maybe it's not just Amazon, but, you know, shortages of packaging, cost of energy, cost of raw materials, it's only going to get tougher. So we need to just make sure we can make some money. I'll stop about that now. I'm on my soapbox rather.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much for this. On a closing note, you know, if you can give a brief idea about your book, you know, Recipe for Success, the ingredients of a profitable food business. Where can the viewers, you know, buy it from, and maybe a graph of that?
So the book is on Amazon, Recipe for Success, Karen Green. You can find that. My website is foodmentor.co.uk, and go along there, and there's loads of resources. I do webinars every other Friday. So if you go on the resources page, you'll find all my webinars, and you can have a look, and there's one about the introduction to the retail market, and there's one about negotiation. There's all sorts there. And if you want to get in touch, and I'm sure we'll put all this in the show notes, it's karen@foodmentor.co.uk. Come and talk to me.
Once again for your time on this show today, and really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks very much. I wish you very well.
Have a great day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.